Okay, thank you everyone. So good morning to you all, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever it is that you're dining from today. Thank you so much for joining. So my name is Mandeep Mahal, and I'm one of the MBA recruitment and admissions managers for the Oxford MBA. And I'm delighted to be here today to speak about the Laidlaw Scholarship in partnership with the Laidlaw Foundation. Today, I'm going to give you some information on the Laidlaw Scholarship, how to apply, the opportunity it brings, and then most importantly, you're going to hear from some of our scholars. And I'm really excited to be joined by Asha, Ifiliwa, and Princess, who are all alumni now, so they all graduated last September. And they will come and introduce themselves shortly, and we hope to have some time for questions. So any questions that you do have, please use the Q&A function to submit them. It just makes it so much easier for us, but do feel free to say hi and where it is that you're dining from in the chat. We would like this session to be interactive. Also to note that the session will be recorded as well, so we'll be able to follow up with the recording after today's session. Okay, so let's get started. So to get started, you can see a quote from the CEO of the Laidlaw Foundation. And I think what's important to take from this quote is two parts, is extraordinary women and also who would not otherwise be able to afford an MBA. So we are looking for exceptional talent who want to lead in a responsible way, and ask some of those big questions. So on the MBA, we do have a slight focus on impact, responsible business. We are teaching you to become responsible business leaders and looking to lead with purpose. And what's great about the Laidlaw Scholarship is that it's not only focused on those who would not otherwise be able to afford an MBA. We know MBAs are an expensive investment, and it's great to have a scholarship that not only looks at merit-based academic achievements, but those who could not do this otherwise. And that's a big element of the Laidlaw Foundation. So Laidlaw are looking to advance younger girls and women. And I would encourage you to have a look at their website. They have some great resources on there. They are not only working with business schools and MBAs, but also younger girls at college and school level. Lord Laidlaw describes his mission, and what drove him to start this scholarship was that he worked with a lot of women in leadership positions in his organisations and saw the success of his organisations that did have that gender balance. And we do know that there's a lot of research and reports that organisations that do have that balance do better. So this is really at the root of that, and it's not about checking a box and having parity to reach the statistic. This is about women getting into those leadership positions, the opportunity this affords to women who might have not otherwise applied or considered an MBA. So they can go ahead and reach that high level of leadership, those high level roles that they want to get towards. The scholarship has been running with other schools globally for 5 years, so there is a considerable network of other Laidlaw scholars from other business schools globally. So I know Columbia Business School and London Business School. And this picture that you can see on the screen is our scholars from last class. They actually just graduated last week. They had their capstone, and this was taken at the Scholars Breakfast, which we host at the start of the academic year. Okay, so if we get into details of the scholarship, so scholarships do range from partial to full awards. Full awards are covering the full tuition fee for the year that you are applying to. And the criteria for the scholarship is made up of different parts, and you are being assessed on different elements, different parts by the scholarship committee. So we are going to be looking for academic excellence. I suppose that goes without saying. It is the University of Oxford that you are applying to, and we are looking for that in your MBA application. So we will be looking at your bachelor's, your undergraduate degree, your GMAT or your GRE. I'm not going to go into details of the application requirements for the MBA in this webinar, but what I will say is that we do look at applications holistically. And I know that's a cliche, I know that's what all business schools say, but it is true. And you can certainly look to balance those two criteria, the degree and the GMAT. And we don't have hard requirements. We advise on what is competitive, but there is a balance. So if you are dialing in today and let's say one element, let's say your bachelor's degree is slightly lower, you can certainly look to balance that with a higher GMAT or GRE and vice versa. You can also show excellence through previous university awards, so prizes and other degrees beyond your bachelor's. And then also through any extra co-curricular activities and also your work experience. So demonstrating that financial need, and there is some detailed guidance available when you're applying to the scholarship. And we are asking you to complete some information about your household income. So that's the people that you're living with, people in your household that have a part in your outgoings. We are asking you about financial responsibility and if you have any dependents, and that just isn't dependents in terms of children. It could be parents or a sibling. I would say any financial responsibility that you do have. And then finally, we are asking you to demonstrate that leadership potential, so that commitment to gender equality and leading ethically. The scholarship application will ask you what you have done or currently doing to support women, gender equality in your career, and also as a Laidlaw scholar, how you plan to support women and develop female leaders. This is really important, and I would say that the committee are looking for people who already have made steps to support women previously and want to continue and expand on this work. We are looking for people who can clearly demonstrate what they are doing in that space. Okay, so how to apply. So applications are open for 2024, and we have our first stage deadline, which falls on the 27th of September. And you must submit both your MBA application and your scholarship application at the same time. This is really important. So in fact, let's just give you an example. So let's say you're working on your MBA application and you're ready to submit. And let's say you're aiming for that stage 1 deadline, which is the 27th of September. And then you plan to submit your Laidlaw scholarship application in a couple of weeks, or say a month later, thinking that it's all submitted by the 5th of January, which is the deadline for the scholarship. That won't be applicable and you won't be considered for the scholarship. This is really important, that you need to submit both applications at the same time, and they both need to be submitted by our stage 2 deadline, which is the 5th of January. So please be mindful of that and ensure that both of your applications are submitted by this date so that you can be considered for the scholarship. Applications for the scholarship will be reviewed after each stage, and candidates will be informed at each application stage if they have been successful in being shortlisted. And final shortlisting will take place in March, and then there is an interview process as well, and that is expected to be taken in May. There is an email address on the slide now, so if you do have any questions about the scholarship, please do get in touch with us via that email. That does sit with our funding team, and they are able to answer any questions that you may have about details of the scholarship application, so the Laidlaw scholarship application process. Okay, so some of the opportunities that the scholarship brings is the network that you're going to have. So it is access to a lifelong network, and it is a network that is growing. So it is a network of Laidlaw scholars from other schools across industries, so not just globally. An annual dinner with the representative of the Laidlaw Foundation, the side faculty and previous scholars. So this is a picture from, it's actually with our inaugural scholars, and actually we'll be hearing from 3 of them today. So this was taking place last summer, I believe, with Lord Laidlaw. And also as a scholar, you do get invitations to other business school side events. There are breakfast, dinners, and drinks events that you do get invited to. Okay, so before we get into the panel discussion, we do have a video that we want to show you that just brings together the Laidlaw Scholarship. So I'll play that now. The volume on the video is the maximum on my side. So if you aren't able to hear it, then it would be just putting up your volume. So we'll play that now.
I've always known that I wanted to study at Oxford, but it just felt like one of those far-fetched dreams that you have at the back of your mind that like would never come true.
I'm a single mom and I was working 2 jobs. Life was really, really full on. How am I going to move countries? How am I going to manage a full-time MBA?
I saw that there was a new scholarship being launched specifically for women leaders. The description was you need to have a passion to empower women and have a dream to perhaps become an executive somewhere. And I was like, that sounds like me.
The Laidlaw Scholarship is empowerment, right? Scholarship empowers women like me who ordinarily couldn't have afforded an education like this one to help us come here and achieve every dream you have in your mind that you thought was impossible. Without these types of opportunities, and the opportunities to not have to worry about funding and focus on your education, I wouldn't be here.
It really gave me like network seems like the wrong term, like really like a sisterhood of women.
50% of the world is female. And if men continue to occupy positions of power and making decisions on behalf of women, we will never reach a society where problems are solved properly.
You need more women at the top, right? And the truth is there's certain things that help you rise to the top. And one of that, honestly, is a business degree like this one.
The Oxford MBA actually has one of the highest women participation rates of all MBAs. And I think the scholarship helps to do that.
Recently, Laidlaw launched a fund for the scholars. It's a £50 million fund, and it invests in businesses started by the scholars. I think that is amazing because across the globe, women struggle to get funding from banks for business ventures they'd want to start. The MBA here is the perfect combination of business and impact. It doesn't talk about business in isolation. It talks about how it has a bigger role to play in society.
Being able to represent myself, my family, my country, my continent, and help other people come up and do the same thing. And that is really the essence of the scholarship. So make people know that they can do things like this, because they've seen people like me.
The first thing that we usually do is disqualify ourselves because we think, oh my gosh, it's Oxford, I will never make it in there. Try it, apply, take a leap of faith.
Imposter syndrome is something that affects a lot of people, but I would say that, believe in yourself, go for it, and just put your best foot forward.
Okay, so that's enough from me today. So that's just a brief overview of the scholarship. If there are any questions about that, we will be taking questions, so please do submit them in the Q&A function. But if the exciting part now is hearing from our panel, and you may actually recognise some of them from that video that we just shown. So if I could invite our panelists to switch their cameras on. Great, thank you. So if we can start with some introductions. So Ife, I'll start with you because you're first on my screen.
Hi, Mandeep. Hi, hello, good morning. It's morning my time. Thank you so much for having me here. It's always exciting to do this, not just for the Laidlaw Foundation, but for Oxford and also for women looking to stand out in their applications. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this. My name is Ife Oluwa. You can call me Ife. I'm Nigerian. I currently live and work in London. I'm a Laidlaw scholar. I'm excited to be here with, my classmates, Princess and Asha. It's always nice to do this with them. I currently work as a senior strategy and operations manager at Amazon Web Services, which is the cloud computing business for Amazon. It's I mean, my Oxford year was pretty phenomenal, something like I've never experienced. And all that could happen because, of being awarded as a Laidlaw scholar. So I'm excited to dive in today and talk to you guys about my experience, my application process, and answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you so much, Ife. Asha, we'll come over to you next.
Yeah, thank you, Mandeep. Hi, everyone. So my name is Asha. I'm from India. Before the MBA, I founded my social enterprise, Swara Voice of Women, where we work with rural women artisans, trying to make the fashion industry more ethical, more sustainable. I'm very excited to speak at these panels because Laidlaw made my MBA possible, and I want to make sure that I give as much information about my journey as possible to aspiring scholars and applicants. So yeah, excited to speak to you.
Great, thank you so much. And yes, it's great to hear that our Laidlaw scholars are always looking to give back. So thanks, Asha. And Princess, we'll come over to you next.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Princess Agina, and I'm from Houston, Texas. Essentially, my career journey has been very non-linear. So I started out working for a startup, and then did marketing and media strategy for Walmart, joined the Peace Corps for 2.5 years in Costa Rica, where I was working with micro entrepreneurs, ended up doing economic development specialist and working for the government of Hawaii, and becoming the film commissioner for Hawaii. And now currently, after graduating from Oxford, I am an entrepreneur. Essentially, my startup is about alumni engagement and kind of a baby between LinkedIn and Tinder. And I'm also newly in the role of community and project management executive at the Laidlaw Foundation. This is very serendipitous.
Yes, it is. So this is actually a great opportunity. So I'm sure if you've got any questions for Princess in terms of, I suppose, thinking about a bit more about the Laidlaw Foundation, maybe Princess is the best person to answer those. So great, thank you. So so we'll start getting into the discussion. And also just want to note that we're currently heading into our 4th year with Laidlaw. So we are really creating a nice community, and you'll get to hear from our scholars, and all of our scholars are amazing. They have different stories to tell, different backgrounds. They come from different corners of the globe. So I think to begin with, what we will start with, and this is probably you're all going to have to cast your minds back to when you were actually applying for the programme and applying for the scholarship. So one of the selection criteria is that commitment to gender equality, leading ethically, and paying that forward. So interesting to hear, how were you able to demonstrate that in your application? So I think it'd be great to hear from all three of you on this question. So not sure who wants to go first.
I can go first. So like I mentioned, yeah, mine is pretty straightforward. Like I mentioned, before the MBA, I founded my social enterprise, Swara Voice of Women. I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm in a cafe and it was pretty empty when right before the webinar. Now it got noisy, but I hope you can still hear me.
We can.
Yeah. So okay, great. So my social enterprise was founded to provide employment opportunities for women. So after my undergraduate education in statistics, I went on to do a 2-year fellowship program called Gandhi Fellowship, which is like for Americans or people who watch Hollywood movies. Peace Corps, which Princess did. The 2-year program where you work with like underdeveloped communities to improve the education level of students there. Gandhi Fellowship is similar to that, but based in India. So I did that 2-year program, and while I was in the community, I realized that employment opportunities for women are way less than men. This is because of like patriarchal structures, and men have the freedom to migrate to cities in search of jobs, but women are still stuck in villages. So how can we create or modify jobs to get these women into the workforce? So that's how my social enterprise, Swara Voice of Women, was started. So when I applied for the MBA and the Laidlaw scholarship. It perfectly aligned with my vision of how to combine social impact, women empowerment, and for-profit business together. So I felt like the scholarship was made for me. But I will let Princess and Ife speak more about it, because I think the Laidlaw Foundation looks at gender equality in like different ways, even if you didn't find even if you didn't start like a social enterprise aimed at this, if it runs through, if you're passionate about it and it runs through everything you do, then I think that counts. You want to speak, Princess?
Yeah, sure. Unless Ife, you want to go first, or okay. I will go ahead then. So yeah, similarly to Asha, I've also had well, not similar in the sense of our social enterprises, but I also started a social enterprise called Business U Ventures. And essentially that was started in New Orleans with the aim of democratizing entrepreneurship and ensuring that those from the most underestimated communities had those same opportunities to start up and see examples from within their community. And I, when I was a Fulbright scholar in Mexico, I ended up expanding those that reach to be both US and Mexico program. And so that's something that I spoke about extensively in my application, because it was something that had a real impact on me personally, and something that, you know, I aim to be impactful in both of those communities. Yeah, I think that I answered the question, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, guys, on my end, so I've always worked in corporate, right? I'm a corporate girl through and through, up until I get into my entrepreneurship life in a couple of years. But I'm saying this because, so you understand that with the Laidlaw Scholarship, they would literally look at you from any lens that you present yourself, right? So Princess and Asha came from the social enterprise lens. I came from a corporate life lens, you know. But I think one of the big selling points for me was really talking about my experiences with like volunteering, right? So from a very early age, you know, I was, you know, trained and brought up by really strong women, right? My mom, my mentors, you know, people that I watched and people that I looked up to, and I let them influence me a lot, you know, based on, you know, all the things that I saw them do, how I saw them run their lives, how I saw them stand out in their careers and in everything that they did. You know, for me, that was a very big, you know, sense of direction as I grew older, right? And that really helped me to take up a lot of things that I did. So I volunteered with, you know, one of the largest, if not the largest, women's NGO back home in Nigeria, WIMBIZ. And they focus on, you know, women in business, public service, and, you know, entrepreneurship. So I volunteered with them, and I was a student ambassador with them for my, you know, my 4 years in uni. When I finished that and got into the workplace, also actively took part in, like, you know, the different gender equality, you know, activities at work, you know, just always putting myself forward, right? But apart from the big things, it's also the little things, right? Within your community, within your area, within your space, with friends. How are you leading as a woman? How are you championing your gender equality cause, right? So I want you guys to just take the fact that sometimes it's big things, sometimes it's a pool of little things, right, that just add up, you know. And then one thing I like to say is when you're writing, you know, the application, you need to recognize that nothing is unimportant. Everything is important, so put it down first and then you can trim it down, you know, but no experience is irrelevant, right? Think as far back as high school, right? You know, as far back as early days of uni, like nothing is so just by the way, right? Because it all adds up to the kind of, you know, applicant you're going to be and the kind of person that they want. So I think that's what I would say about that.
That's great, thank you. And yes, some great answers there. And I think also, yes, important to note that it can be, you can demonstrate that through your work, so through your professional experience, or it might be through volunteering experience. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you are an entrepreneur. So as Ife said, she's worked in corporate, so maybe it's something that you've been able to demonstrate through some of that professional experience. It just goes back to that, in terms of all of our scholars, they all have different backgrounds, different stories. So if anything, I'd say that the scholarship committee, they just want to see that it is something that you have done, that you have been able to demonstrate. So whether that's through volunteering experience, as Ife said, it could have been sort of something back during your undergraduate degree, maybe. So so do have a think. So really start thinking about those and how it is that you can look to put them in your application. So I hope that's answered that question. So I can see that there's a couple of questions about the network. So I think in particularly the network that you're going to join. So I suppose it's really the fact that you are alumni. So you graduated last September. So how were you able to utilize the network whilst you were on the program? So whilst you were a scholar, but then also beyond as well. So so Princess, if we could start with you, if that's okay.
Sure. So yeah, I actually was reflecting on this with a few other scholars last week, and the network has been incredible. So when we were Laidlaw scholars during our MBA year, it was an incredible experience because we were able to really interact with other scholars from other universities. So we had like the Equal Conference, which was this huge conference at LBS, where we were able to just, connect with fellow men and women from the Laidlaw Scholars Program, because undergrad and grad have men and women as a part of the Scholars Network. And there's 2,500 scholars in the network. So it's an incredible opportunity to connect with people all over the world. And let me think of other ways. But yeah, those are the main things, like the opportunity also to have, dinners with the dean, these very bespoke opportunities that were specific to us as Laidlaw scholars really helped us to engage in very cool ways.
Great, thank you. Asha.
Yeah, so adding to what Princess said, I'm currently in talks with the Laidlaw Foundation on doing sort of like an internship program with Laidlaw scholars from undergrad education with my social enterprise, Swara in India. So I personally feel the Laidlaw Foundation really wants you to succeed. They want to set you, make sure that even after the MBA program, it's not just like a financial support during the 1 year that you're doing the MBA, but it's also anything you need afterwards. For example, they've launched a venture capital fund to invest in startups founded by scholars. So that just shows like how much they're thinking about you and your career after the MBA and the scholarship as well. So I think it's like a foundation that keeps giving, or a community that keeps giving, and definitely the other scholars that you interact with is amazing.
Great, thank you. And Ife, how about you? How have you been able to sort of use the network in terms of when you were on program and also post program as well?
I mean, I think the great thing about the Laidlaw Foundation is the group of people that the foundation brings together, right? It's such a stellar group of individuals, right, that ordinarily you may or may not come across, right? But with the Laidlaw Foundation, you certainly are a part of a network that is interested in not just supporting you, but seeing you grow and seeing you thrive, right? So like Princess and Asha said, we had those two big events where, so the first was the launch of the venture capital fund, the $50 million venture capital fund. And then, all the Laidlaw scholars were invited and we all came to this launch, and it was the first time we're meeting scholars from all over the world, undergrads and postgrads. So we had people come from Columbia Business School in the US. We had obviously the LBS folks and we had ourselves. It was quite a night of good experience and exposure. And then we also had the Equal Conference and London Business School. And at that time, while I was still at Oxford, I was the head of I was one of the co-chairs of the Women's Alliance. So speaking to the Laidlaw Foundation to support, us, and we got to, attend this conference, with the right support, accommodation, support, transportation. It's those things because you're a student, right? So all of those kinds of, opportunities that, sponsor you to attend events, they're things that you value and appreciate. And I remember on the first night, we had an exclusive dinner with one of Nigeria's prominent women, Ibukun Awushika, and it was just an inspiring night for all of us who were in attendance. And again, that was something that not everyone had access to, but just the Laidlaw scholars, right? You have all these exclusive events, exclusive, mentorship sessions where you just go and you soak in a lot of opportunities and experiences, and that really set you up not just for now, but for much later. But I guess for me, additional to that is also the post support of the Laidlaw Foundation. And when I think about, so it was about 8 of us who were scholars in my year, and we have that lovely WhatsApp group where we all still just connect. One of us got married, and a lot of us attended the wedding, earlier this year in June. That was nice. And, it wasn't a large wedding, but it was a wedding where she extended an invite to all the Laidlaw scholars. And that just felt very heartwarming. People share personal things that they're dealing with, and, we all just support. And you just realize that this is a nice group of, it's a nice group to be a part of that, I don't think anything is going to make us close down that group. So the news always just gets bigger. The experiences we keep sharing, and we keep supporting each other. And I think that when you think about what life means to you, and, my personal mantra is, I'm only as great as the people that I have around me. They are my large support system. And I would say one thing, I'm definitely excited that I have this group of women and also a foundation like this, just backing me up, as I go along in my journey.
That's great, thank you. And yes, I think it was Davina who said in that video, like, network didn't seem the right word. I remember her saying it was more like a sisterhood. So that's really great to hear that. I think if we just shift just a little bit from the scholarship and actually just think about in terms of the MBA. So and I can see that there is a question in terms of how the scholarship has supported you throughout the MBA and also post MBA. So I suppose thinking about the MBA, and I know Ife, in terms of so you're working in London now, so you're with Amazon. So if you can just reflect, I suppose, thinking about the entire year, the MBA that you've had, how is it that's been able to help and support you with your post MBA goals?
I mean, when I think about how, even some of the things that I wrote down in my scholarship, essays, I smile because I'm like, you know what, I'm getting there. Right. One of the things I said was I wanted to partner with the foundation and do a lot for, women who were running businesses in Africa. And I've already started putting those plans together and thinking through it. I know that Susanna, who is currently the CEO of the foundation, is always happy to hear from me when I reach out to her. Right. So just knowing that, the people that can support you with your big dreams are one email away is not an experience that a lot of people have. Right. It's not the kind of opportunity that many people have. So, if you do get the scholarship, guys, I would say take advantage of it. A lot of people are just right there to say, let us know what you want to do, and we can brainstorm together and think through how we can make this happen. Right. So I think that phase of my life, as I start to think of what I want my near future to look like and the kind of things I want to do, right, the Laidlaw Foundation is a very big part. I hope they know it, but they're a very big part of the plans that I'm making, just with the kind of support that I know that I can get from the foundation. And they're always happy to hear from us. So I think that it's exciting, but it's also, it gives you that level of comfort to know that, worst case scenario, there's one group of people that I can rely on, so I think for me, that makes all the difference.
Great, thank you. And Arsha, what about you in terms of reflecting on your post-MBA experience? How has that been crucial to you as you've graduated?
How the Laidlaw Foundation has been key at what I did post the MBA. I think the first thing is giving you the financial support and other support systems in place allows you to dream big and not be constrained by like things that most MBA students are constrained by, which is like logistics of paying a loan back, getting a secure job. You can actually take a gamble. You can try entrepreneurship if that's what you want to do. You can like switch your career. So I think it really increases your risk appetite, and that increases your ability to lead and be your authentic self. Try out different things you might be interested in. So post the MBA, I went back to India to grow my company. And after that, around April, I came to London to do an incubator program for 2.5 months. And I just finished it last month. So this is the kind of freedom you have as a Laidlaw scholar post MBA.
Great, thank you. And Princess, do you have any sort of comments to add in terms of the MBA experience and think about it post MBA?
Yeah, so post MBA, the foundation has been incredibly helpful to me, and I'm not just saying that because I work for them now. It was actually what they did before I started working with them. I'm literally a week old with them. So I again have a new startup that was born out of my experience with SBS, and essentially after the foundation became privy to my startup, the Laidlaw Ventures Fund chief investment officer reached out to me and was just like, hey, let's get coffee, let's talk through your startup, and let's see how, where we can plug in and support. And so not only do they provide funding, the Laidlaw Ventures Fund, but they also are very proactive in trying to help their scholars to achieve like their biggest goals with their startup. So everything from introductions to investment, investment opportunities. So I got intros to different, fund managers and things of that nature through the venture fund, as well as just like really helpful and insightful advice and support from the, chief investment officer of the fund, which was absolutely incredible to get the type of guidance and those type of connections that come out of the foundation. And I think another thing is because of how big the foundation is, like the foundation has a Laidlaw Schools Trust, the Laidlaw undergraduate program across so many different schools, 17 different universities, and then of course the venture fund. There's so many opportunities for cross-sector collaboration that you can just reach out to the foundation and say, hey, I'm looking for someone to help me on this project, and they can find someone for you. Or hey, like I need funding, are there any opportunities? And they can try to connect you with someone in their network if it's not the right fit for them. So yeah, there's just so many opportunities.
Great, thank you, Princess. Okay, so we still have some time, so if there's any questions that you do have for our panel, please do submit them in the Q&A. I can see some questions that I think I should be able to cover. So I can see a question in terms of how to apply to the Laidlaw through the application. There is no link in the funding section. So there should be a link. So actually, when you are submitting an application for the MBA, you should be able to find those details. If not, then please do get in touch with us and we can have a look into that. I can see that there's a question about in terms of recording. So yes, the webinar is being recorded, so we will be able to circulate that to you shortly after today's session. And then, okay, actually this is a good question in terms of, is the Laidlaw Scholarship linked to a college? So there is a collegiate system that we do have here at Oxford, and that's certainly one of the benefits that you have as an MBA student. No, it's not linked to a particular college. You are required to become a member of a college for the MBA, and I know that's quite a new experience for people considering the Oxford programme. So actually, it'd be great to hear about your college experiences. So in fact, if you all want to talk about in terms of your college, so how you went about applying for which college it is that you did choose and your experience with your college. So Asha, we can start with you, please.
Yeah, sure. I think everyone's experience applying to college is so different. So I waited till kind of the end to choose a college because I was waiting for the scholarship. So by the time I got the green signal from Laidlaw, there were only a few colleges left to choose from because they get filled. So I chose one that I didn't like so much. It was pretty new. So there's so much to talk about colleges. Anyway, thankfully, I didn't get accepted into that college, but I went back into a black box and I got one of the oldest colleges, Queen's College. And I had the best experience there. They had like social events, a few social events every week, really great buildings, one of the best libraries in the world. great alumni. So I still sometimes get invited to events there. They support me a lot with Swara, my social enterprise. And similar to Laidlaw, my college has been very good at like connecting me with the right people that I need. But everybody's college experience is so different. So I'll let Princess and Ify speak.
Great,
Yeah,
thanks.
oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Princess.
Yeah, I was going to just point out that yeah, it was such a difficult decision, I felt like, because I didn't realize how crucial colleges can be in some senses. But we did have our MBA cohort gave it a good stab. We had like a college sorting hat, which I think was passed down from generations ago of Oxford students, but essentially it was like the Harry Potter sorting hat. And you would like put in some information. It was this Excel sheet, very MBA-like, but this Excel sheet where you would like fill in some answers and then it would sort you into a college based off what you put. So things like, you know, the importance of a social life, or things like if you plan to travel and may need research grants or something, I don't know, like different things like that, or how old you wanted the college to be. For me, I think what was helpful was prioritizing what I wanted in a college. So I wanted something that was very old and had that type of history, that Oxford history. But I also now see that there's, and also what I chose was how social the MCR was, which is the graduate community in the college, and how open they were to like all diversity and things of that nature. But what I would say as a token of advice for those looking at colleges is consider things like, do they provide stipends for travel? Because during the MBA, we have different, you know, trips, like research trips and even fun trips like the MBATs. Do they give you technology stipends? Some colleges gave people stipends to buy computers, for example. So there's incredible opportunities. And then also things like, you can look at what the theme of the colleges as far as the type of people who end up going there, in the sense of like, are you interested in going to politics, perhaps, like the intersection of business and politics? Perhaps your college is known for having a lot of politicians in there, therefore they will bring back speakers who are politicians and you can build that network. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Princess.
Yeah, I think for me, it's, again, like I think it was, I'm not sure I remember who said this, but it can be a pretty tough decision to make, right? Because this is an entirely new system to you. The first thing, you're like, what in the world is a college, and why do I even have to do this in the first place? But I think when you get to Oxford, you do realize how important it is. But what I would say, and it was what someone had told me, was every college has its own experience. You can't go wrong by being with any college, no matter which one, no matter the one, you know, you end up in. I think it's really about, you know, you and the kind of experience you're trying to extract from it. I had a lot of other priorities, so I can't say I was one of the ones who did every college activity. Definitely not, right? Which is why one of the big advice I always give at the beginning is prioritize the things that are important to you. So if a college life is important, one thing I did find was, you know, for the undergrads who are there for much longer, they can immerse themselves deeply in the college lifestyle. We're there for a year, so there's only so much you can do. But I believe in maximizing your experiences. So I went for my college ball, which was absolutely amazing. I was at St. Cross College. It's a nice, quaint college, close enough to the business school. I loved going in there. They have a nice chapel. You know, it was just nice people, right, to always connect with. Anytime you wanted to drop by, you know, like Princess had said, you know, we have this competition called the MBAT, so it's the MBA tournament, and that's like, think of it like the MBA Olympics for MBA programs in Europe, right? And my college, you know, part funded me to go for that, right? So it's nice to save cash because your college wants to jump in and support, right? You know, I had a friend who was at Jesus College and got like a whole large screen, you know, just, you know, putting in the request, and they funded her for that. So I think that, you know, I have friends who also travel to different countries, and colleges supported them on those trips as well. My college also has, you know, some scholarships. You know, I know that I had a classmate who got a scholarship grant, you know, from the college as well. So again, look through the list, you know, the information is there. They're very transparent, you know, about what opportunities they have. prioritize the things that are important to you, and hopefully if you put in the request in time, you get the college that you want. Otherwise, wherever you end up, you can absolutely make the best and most experience from it, because no college is bad. Everything is great. The activities are there, and it's a ton of fun. So have fun.
Great, thanks, Ife. Some good advice there. Okay, I can see a question. So about, I think in terms of the Laidlaw Foundation, does it include mentorship or support programs to help scholars achieve their academic and career goals? If so, how are mentors selected, and what can scholars expect from this support? So, Princess, I think I'm not sure if you were typing out an answer to that question.
Yeah.
But if I could come to you, I suppose, in terms of just thinking about the actual Laidlaw Foundation, is there a mentorship scheme, or is there a way to explore that?
Yeah, so we're building out one. That's literally my job right now.
Oh, exciting.
That I'm very keen on, because I think there's so many incredible alumni from the Scholars Network. And so there's such an opportunity to, build some continuity between the cohorts and provide that support during your MBA year through a mentorship program. So for sure, by the time that you get into the program and get accepted in the scholarship, there will be a mentorship program that's well built out.
Great. Thanks, Princess. So I can see there's some particular questions that are related to your profile. So what I would say is that we are looking to keep the questions general, and I know that we only have around 10 minutes. So I will pop our email address into the chat in a moment. So any questions that you have about your particular profile, we can look to address those. But just a few in terms of will you need to have acceptance to your application before you apply for the scholarship? So I would recommend you will need to submit both your applications, so your MBA application and your scholarship MBA application. And then if you are successful in receiving an offer of place on the programme, then the scholarship committee will also then be able to consider you for the scholarship as well. I can see another question. So a question from Joey: do I need to have my GMAT exam result released before applying for the scholarship? So yes, you do need to meet the application requirements for the MBA at the time of your MBA application. So yes, you will need to have a GMAT or a GRE test result.
Deep, I think there's a question there that I'm happy to take.
Yes.
Someone here says, what was your general Oxford and Laidlaw experience as an African woman? What support systems exist? Questions around unconscious biases, and if the MBA has a diversity course on its curriculum and things like that. So yes, I would start from the end. The MBA does have a lot of courses, electives that you can take on gender diversity and gender equality and things like that. There are quite a number of courses, so feel free to bid on those courses when it's time in the Trinity term for those electives. They're very robust, and I know classmates who attended those electives really had a lot of great things to say about them. So I think on that end you're covered. As an African woman, I would say it was one of the big reasons why I applied to Oxford in the very first place, right? When you're doing your research on MBA programs, you start to think about, okay, what is important to me, as a person going on a program like this now, right? And one of those things was I wanted a program that was very evident that it wanted someone like me. So someone who looked like me, someone who, sounded like me. And, the Oxford MBA is very clear about that. They love Africans. They want more Africans to come on the program. And even on top of that, they want a lot of women, so currently I'm not sure of the numbers, but in my year, it was probably about 47%, of women in the classroom. And that is better than any other MBA program I've heard about, right? Currently in my class, we were about 355. And almost, over 50 of us, or almost 50 of us were African, right? And for me, I didn't see those numbers anywhere else. So that really just, formed some of the big basis and foundation of why, I applied to the program. And it was quite the amazing experience, right? And I'm friends with quite a number of people who just graduated last week, and they're not saying anything different. It was a rich experience. It's one where it's well-rounded, it's holistic, and your voice and your opinion matters, right? So, just bear that in mind as you're applying, and I'm telling you that this is a great decision to make if you eventually go ahead with it.
Great, thanks, Ife. And yes, so for our current class that, well, they've just graduated, it was 48% female, so that was actually one of the highest percentages that we have had. So we are striving to get gender parity, and we do have our incoming class will be starting in a couple of weeks. So we're hoping for some good news in terms of what that gender balance is. So we'll be able to report those statistics in a couple of weeks. So yes, thank you, Ife. Okay, so we just have a few moments left. So let's just have a look in terms of the particular questions. So I know there's a question I can see from what makes a great candidate and application for the Laidlaw Scholarship. So, and I suppose, well, turning over to our panelists, so what made you think, why did you think you were successful? And I know that might be a difficult question to answer, but if there's anything that you're able to think about, if you reflect back on your application, so on the process of your scholarship and your MBA application.
I'd go first. So I think for me, when I crafted my essay, I really tried to speak from the heart, which I know sounds very cliche, but I really reflected deeply on what experiences shaped me as a woman in business, as a human being in personal, in general, and just even my identities through intersectionality, specifically because, of course, this is a women in business scholarship. And yeah, when I thought about it from that lens, I think that my experiences and my passion came through my essay because of that, because of trying to be as genuine as possible about what really impacted me. Impacted in the sense of not just like, oh, this has worked against me, but actually impacted me in the sense of like, this is how these moments have shaped my life for the better and like have made me a more thoughtful leader and made me want to give back in this specific way because of the way that I've, received my blessings, I guess. And so, yeah, I really tried to put that through on the essay, and I think that's what helped me personally.
Yeah, I mean, maybe to just add to what Princess said, I guess for me, it's very similar to what Princess had said. I'd say just be very authentic, right? It's, there's probably there's a tendency to want to sound perfect, to want to sound like, you've done only great things. But I think allow yourself to be vulnerable. I would be very honest, and this was probably the most vulnerable, thing I've written in my life up till now. And I hope to never write anything this vulnerable again for a while. Because I just had to dig deep to certain experiences that I've had that some I even wanted to forget, some I wasn't very keen on talking about. But, I said, if this is what is going to get me this opportunity, then I'm going to pour it all out, right? So honestly, my scholarship essay for the Laidlaw is not one I even typically share with so many people because it really digs deep into me, and just you can see my heart and soul in it, right? And I think that's one thing I want you guys to take away from this, like, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to pour yourself out. Don't, some of you have had certain kinds of experiences with family, and because it's also a scholarship that talks about, wanting to see that you have a financial need, right? So you have to display that and display that clearly, right? So don't be afraid to show that you have this need. Again, this is a bunch of people who don't even know you personally who are going to be reading this, but who are really in a position to make a decision about this opportunity for you. So don't hold back, right? Get it all out there, because the big question there is, what if you just get it, right? And the three of us here really give ourselves that opportunity and we got it. So I think I'll say be authentic, but also don't be afraid to be very vulnerable. It's one of those essays that requires a lot of that. So get ready to pour your heart into it. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ife.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ife. Can I add as well, Mandeep?
Yeah, absolutely. So Asha, in terms of, this might be a difficult question to answer, but why did you think you were successful in your Laidlaw scholarship application? So thinking back to your application.
I would definitely echo the things Ife and Princess said about being really authentic and digging deep into what points in your life shaped you. Try to see it from the lens of as a woman as a leader and as the person you want to become, and how the MBA would help you reach there. And I don't think this is contradictory at all. You have to be like deeply vulnerable, be able to talk about uh, instances where you failed, or like um, where you weren't the best, but you should equally be able to talk about the places where you succeeded. This is an advice I got for writing the MBA applications as well as the scholarships. A lot of the time, we as women, and also like in my culture, like I was born and brought up in India, and where I was, boasting about your achievements is not good, or like talking about it or highlighting it, but it's so important to do it. It can't be just a line in your CV. You have to bring it to life. So what did it take for you to, for in our case, like before the MBA, we were like, I was awarded uh, by a Google award for like social impact and how we use technology for social impact. So not just a line in your CV, like what it meant and why you were awarded that and what it meant to you. It's important to highlight things like that in your application as well. So I think like deeply vulnerable, but also like, yeah, deeply proud of your achievements. Yeah, that's how.
Thank you so much. And yes, I just want to echo that. I think in terms of, I think for a number of candidates, when they're thinking about applying for an MBA, they think they might need to make up some elaborate story, or they think that we might be looking for unicorns or something. And no, we're just looking for real people. And I think being authentic, that is really important to showcase that in your application, and just think about your personal stories. We're just looking for real people. Okay, so we only have a couple of moments left. I can see, apologies, Laura, I think you may have submitted this question twice, so let me quickly take this question. So about applying for other scholarships. So yes, of course, you're absolutely welcome to apply for any of the scholarships. So if there are a number of scholarships that you feel that you are eligible for and that you meet the criteria, then yes, do go ahead. So I know in particular, so for your question, you've mentioned the Pershing Square Scholarship. So yes, you can certainly go ahead and apply for both scholarships. If you're in that fortunate position where you have been successful for both, then it would be, of course, just accepting one of those scholarships. So yes, you can certainly go through the process. So so Laura, in your case, I'm assuming that you are considering the 1+1. So yes, you're more than welcome to apply for the Pershing Square as well as the Laidlaw Scholarship. Okay, so we only have a couple of moments left. So I think just to end with, and I'm sorry if we've not had a chance to get to your question. I have inputted our email address in the chat function, so please feel free to submit any questions to us. But for just to end with, is there any advice that our panelists have for anyone who's dialing in today? Is there anything that you wish you knew, sort of, if you think back to when you were in this position, when you were applying for the program, applying for the scholarship? So yes, any final words, any advice? Ife, if we start with you.
I usually like to keep it simple with these parts of the sessions, right? And I would really just tell you, go for it. No second guessing yourself, no thinking maybe not. It's a definitely yes, do it, go for it, because like I always say, what if it works out, right? You have representation, so you have a lot of people who've done it. The three of us here have done it and we've succeeded at it, so there's really no excuse for you not to give it your very best shot. Put your best foot forward. No haphazard applications, no wishy-washy anything, no half-baked anything. Go for it, give it your absolute best, so that you know that even if it doesn't work out, at least you gave everything, right? So it's not an option of whether or not. If you want to apply for the Oxford MBA and you're a woman, you should absolutely apply to the MBA, to the Laidlaw Foundation Scholarship. So go for it. All the best, rooting for you guys. And I can't wait for a number of you to be part of the alumni network.
Great, thanks, Ife. Asha.
Yeah, I think similar to it, be courageous, be bold, and apply for it, go for it, don't hold yourself back.
And Princess, any final words from you, any advice?
Yeah, I know that a lot of people, we all oftentimes suffer with imposter syndrome, especially as women. but don't let that be something that, you know, makes you stay in analysis paralysis, where you're just like, oh my gosh, should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? Should I not? You should just, as Ife and Asha so eloquently said, just do it, you know, because don't count yourself out. At the end of the day, we've all felt that way, and we're all incredible people. And, you know, I don't know you all in the crowd, but I'm sure you're equally as incredible. So, you know, just go for it.
Great, thank you. And yes, I think as in terms of imposter syndrome, I think that's something that a lot of women do face, and I think it's actually I think it was in the video, I can't remember who said it, but just try it, put yourself forward, you never know. So so I hope that's been helpful. So thank you so much to our panelists. So thank you, Ife, Asha and Princess, for giving up your time and for sharing your stories. It's been really great to have you here on the panel. And thank you to everyone who's dialed in today. I hope you found that useful. The session will be recorded, so we will be following up with the recording shortly. And I have inputted the Oxford MBA email address on there as well. So any sort of questions that are directed to your profile, you can get in touch. But otherwise, best of luck as you start working on your application, so on your MBA application and your Laidlaw Scholarship application. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck.
Bye. Bye.